Were you shocked when Al and Tipper Gore announced they would divorce? Surprised that after 4 decades they decided to split? Or do you totally understand it? Do you believe them when they say they've just grown apart? Well, we'll take a look at late life divorce and why some couples think it's better than staying married right now on It's Your Call. Al and Tipper Gore shocked everyone when they recently announced they would divorce after 40 years. After all, they had made it through 4 decades of highs and lows, so why split now? Well, they say they've just grown apart. But are you buying that? We have experts standing by with their opinions on that question who will also answer your questions about divorce. So if you want to join in, email me right now at lynn@lynndoyle.net. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Lynn Doyle, and our topic this hour focuses on divorce. It's always a difficult topic, but imagine getting divorced after 30, 40, even 50 years of marriage. Folks like the Gores have been married to each other literally for more than half their lives. So what would make them decide to call it quits? Well, experts tell us it's a growing trend, brought on by the fact that, hey, 70 is now the new 50. No kidding, because people are living longer and better lives, they want to make sure their remaining years are good ones. So instead of staying in a ho-hum or a bad marriage, they're clearing out. Is that what happened with the Gores? Well, who knows? But what we do know is that these college sweethearts are sweethearts no more. Libby understands the decision to divorce after such a long marriage. She divorced her husband after 40 years, and she's here to tell us why. Libby, great to have you with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
40 years of marriage, and you said, enough, Jose, I'm out of here.
Not really. Not enough, Jose, I'm out of here. It reached a point that although we liked the same things, and we enjoyed the same things, we didn't enjoy doing them together anymore. So it reached a point that it just didn't work for us. And I felt I wanted to go forward, and I felt that he wanted to go forward.
So it was a mutual decision.
It was a mutual decision.
Much like they tell us the Gores' decision was.
I can understand where the Gores are coming from.
So when you heard me say, why after all of this time, after you've been through the highs and the lows of 4 decades of marriage, why, toss it in at that point? Did you feel like your life would be better without him than it was with him?
Absolutely.
And has it been?
Absolutely. I reinvented myself. The potential that I had was never able to take shape until now, and now I'm doing what I like to do. I have 2 new careers that I didn't have before, and I just feel wonderful.
So would you say that you are thriving in your life after divorce?
Absolutely.
More so now than ever before?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you understand why the Gores have made this decision.
Yes. And what I do, I'm making other people happy, which is great. I'm a motivational speaker for seniors. And also I work in the educational department at one of the hospitals, and it's just marvelous. I am now what I wanted to be and what I'm supposed to be.
How about that? Well, good for you. We're going to hear more about Libby's story in just a moment. But first, this question, is her thriving life after divorce typical? Well, we're going to ask an expert. Tanya Yvetz Weimer is a life coach, a syndicated newspaper columnist of a column called Savvy Dating, and the author of Thriving After Divorce, Transforming Your Life When a Relationship Ends. She's joining us now on the telephone live. Tanya, good to have you with us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So are you telling us that it is possible to thrive after a divorce, particularly late in life?
It's always possible to thrive after divorce. And your other guest made a great point. She said she reinvented herself. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what you've got to do.
Well, a lot of people, I would think, Tanya, would be afraid of such a reinvention. How do you encourage them if that's the route they'd like to take?
Well, sometimes they don't have any choice, and sometimes they do. But I encourage them to get their bricks under them in terms of they need a network of support, they need their finances under them, and they need a purpose.
So you need to have a plan. You can't just say, all right, I'm 30 years into this marriage and I've had enough, that's it, I'm walking out. You need to really give it a lot of thought before you make that decision.
Right. You need to gather all your support under you. if you want to thrive.
And I would imagine that sometimes people are so surprised that a marriage is coming to an end that you don't necessarily get the support that perhaps you had anticipated. Is that true?
I think that in a marriage that comes apart of 40 years, people are shocked. They sort of don't know what to say. And my take on that situation is that, first of all, I think the Gores probably lost their mutual purpose. And that's one of the things that is an engine that drives marriage. The second thing is, I would imagine it was very hard for them to carve out enough alone time. And we know from studies that couples who make their relationship a priority,
right,
and they spend a lot of time alone together, so they have time to get into their issues, work them through, and rebond.
And when you've had a career like Al Gore's that takes you all around the world, I would imagine that that's somewhat difficult. Tanya, thank you so much for your insight into this topic. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good to have you with us. Joining us now is family law attorney Lynn Goldbecken, who is a partner in the Family Law Practice Group at Weber Gallagher. She is a former chair of the American Bar Association's section of family law and an old friend of It's Your Call. Lynn, good to have you back with us.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Were you surprised and shocked, as some people were, when the Gores announced their split, or do you see this every day?
I see a lot of it. I was saddened because it's always sad to see something that looks great split, but I've seen it. I see it a lot.
And you heard Tanya just say that many times it happens as a result of couples who have grown apart, and that is what the Gores say is the explanation for their split, that they've just been leading separate lives.
Right, and you've heard me say this. There are a lot of reasons people divorce. One of them is they grow apart. And those two people have been living in separate towns, they've had separate lives, and their mutual purpose, to quote your prior guest, is that they were raising kids and they were raising his career. Well, his career's changed and their kids are raised, and now she's going to reinvent herself, and he certainly has reinvented himself.
You heard Libby say that they still enjoy doing the same things. They just didn't necessarily enjoy doing them together.
And I see that, and that doesn't mean they have to not like each other. The one point I think that's really important is, first of all, attitude. Your attitude about what you're going to do in your life. Libby's got a great attitude. I'm going on with my life. If you sit with the woe is me, what am I going to do, you're not going anywhere. And the second thing is financial security, because a lot of the women that get out of it, if they don't have enough money to get through their days, they're going to be very unhappy and miserable and depressed, and they're not going to go anywhere.
And that's many times why, honestly, people stay in a marriage. I mean, if that's your situation, tell me about it. But a lot of people stay because they say, well, I can't afford to be out there by myself, or I'm afraid financially to take a risk.
When you're in the public eye, it makes it more difficult because you show everything. You're right out there.
Yeah, but you know what happens? There's no obligation to work after 65. So a lot of women who haven't had a career during the marriage and have no means of support now try to get back in the job market at 60, 70, 75. He's not working anymore. He's living on his Social Security, which is double hers.
Yes.
And she's not getting any kind of a job other than packing in Genardi's. That's not such a great way to go.
So what do you tell people?
There's also a problem. When you're a widow, you get sympathy. And people are very kind to you. The first thing people will say to any couple that's breaking up, what went wrong?
None of your business.
What went wrong? What happened? Did he find somebody else? Did she find somebody else?
I was just going to say that the natural inclination, even with a situation like the Gore split up, is to say, well, was there a third party? And while that is while that is an occurrence in many breakups of marriages, and we're going to talk about that in our next segment. In this particular case, they say it had nothing to do with it.
And hopefully they will stay nice to each other. But a lot of the divorces that I see are not nice. They spend a lot of money on divorce lawyers, which they shouldn't. And then there's not a whole lot of money for two people living in two separate houses.
All right, we're going to talk more about that in just a moment, but I want to invite our viewers to be part of our conversation because we are interactive. It is your call on our topic. So tell me what you think about the Gore Gore's decision to divorce. Do you understand it, or is it baffling to you that they call it quits after all this time? How about you? Are you contemplating a divorce perhaps after decades of marriage? If you want to tell us what you think, or if you have questions about a potential divorce after many decades, we invite you to be interactive with us. You can email me right now. My address is lynn@lynndoyle.net. You can also respond to our questions that you find on Facebook, and you can also find me on YouTube and MySpace as well. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more